Welcome to Prevail Town. May I take your order? Yeah, what is your first order? Oh, you want faction essentials? We can do that. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Xerath Prevails. Today we're doing a faction essentials for First Order, which is hopefully a timely release because we got the new cool Datacron set for First Order, though you should realize that none of these Datacrons is being taken into consideration when I make this, showing you guys the best modding and everything. It may be optimized a little bit more depending on Datacron set, etc., but because this is faction essentials, we're leaving Datacron considerations out. All right, so one thing that we are not leaving out are my patrons. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for your support, guys. I'd really appreciate every single one of you. And if you want to support this channel for free, folks, if you like the faction essentials videos, I would really appreciate it if you just hit that like button, subscribe, comment, mount the algorithm, guys. The First Order has mounted it several times at this point. So let's jump into it, folks. First off, I have a video already out called You Finally Have Supreme Leader Kylo, Now What? And that's going to focus on how to play Kylo, how to mod him, how to use his team. And I'm going to link that in the video description. It's a little bit older, but I think it's mostly relevant still, actually, folks. And it's going to help explain a few more of his mechanics, because honestly, this is a big enough faction that we can't really go over a ton of really in-depth faction specifics. I know it's faction essentials, but that's essentially going to be how to mod them, how does, which ones need Zetas, etc., and just kind of getting a feel for things. So, first off, what are the teams? And I mean, there's not too many, folks. In GAC for 5v5, the offensive team is almost identical to the defense team, except you swap out First Order Officer for First Order Stormtrooper. And then in Territory Wars, obviously you're going to still use Supreme Leader Kylo, but then the wrinkle to it is you can sometimes use PHASMA depending on Datacrons and everything, and the PHASMA team can kind of warp the Supreme Leader Kylo team a little bit, depending. And frankly, guys, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm an expert on the PHASMA stuff. I have asked a few people how to mod them and how best to use them, so we'll talk about that a little bit. But this is not a PHASMA guide. I know that there's been a few people clamoring for such a thing, but it's a very challenging thing to make videos for, because lately there haven't been the Datacrons available for it. I think maybe we'll have one now, but of course it's going to be bolstered by an overpowered Datacron set, so don't hold your breath. And then in 3v3, folks, you can do a Hux lead team with like Red Trooper and then the First Order TIE Pilot, Omicron, and it can do some cool stuff. And then a lot of times it does some really just crap stuff and it's not good. So we're not even going to really talk about it that much. That's one of the most disappointing Omicrons in the game. I'll say that. It looked so promising when it was first released, and it's just not being used at the end game, at least. So we have Marin, wondering why she's here. It's because why wouldn't we put that picture in here? It's great. Okay, so guys, I'm not here to tell you that it's vital that you apply the PHASMA Omicron, only that if you want to run her in Territory Wars, it's vital for that. If you want to run her lead, which is a cool team, it really does a lot of cool stuff if you know how to do it, and if you're modded correctly, which this should show you how to mod your characters and squad correctly for it at least, then it is a cool squad. It's Territory Wars only, obviously, and if you don't want to do Territory Wars, if your guild sucks at them, whatever, then I don't consider that to be vital in totality. It's just vital for that one specific preference, and otherwise, yeah, you can just kind of leave it be. The Hux one, obviously very, very important here, because it stops people from gaining bonus turn meter, which is a massively important mechanic in this game, and if you can stop that, that's amazing. And then I kind of put in order which Supreme Leader Kylo Zetas are, required. Crew, we have the unique one somewhere there, because he does pre-taunt, though under Supreme Leader Kylo, he doesn't really, like, he doesn't need the pre-taunt because he gets it from Supreme Leader Kylo anyways. So that's more if you're going to run him with Phasma, for instance. Yeah, that pre-taunt is good, but yeah, the unique is not, I mean, it's still vital. It's just not as extremely vital as the Hux one. And then the Red Trooper one, I think it is pretty vital, folks. He assists all the time. Pretty good stuff. And then, of course, you still want all of the Kylo Zetas and everything. The ones that I think are mostly not needed. First Order TIE Pilot one, like I said, very disappointing. And then the crew one, the lead is okay. I mean, it's actually very strong early game. It's extremely strong early game. And then eventually you get to the point where you just never use it. I haven't used it for a long time. It's not an end game Zeta. Still a good one early game and mid game, and it's not like, well, I don't regret having applied it, but you don't really need an end game. So, you know, for these guides, it's not that necessary. Now, for Supreme Leader Kylo, remember, guys, I have high relics on these guys, and I took all my stats from my main account. So, Relic 9, you don't have to, the relics are just, that I'm posting here aren't recommendations. I mean, yes, Relic 9 on your Galactic Legends is pretty good, but just keep in mind, it says Relic 9 just so you have a way to compare, a basis of comparison, so that you can see where your stats are and say, oh, yeah, okay, I'd about equivalent to where Zareth is, or to where the numbers are supposed to be. You know, but I'm only Relic 7, so, you know, obviously the numbers are going to be lower. So for Kylo, this has been a topic of pretty hot debate, folks. Like, what is he? How should he be modded? You really want him to have a lot of health, guys. Over 150k health if you can do it, and you don't need a ton of speed. Now, the reason I ended up putting a lot of speed on my Kylo is because in 3v3 especially, he can counter Leia, and when she was first released with her Datacron and all of that stuff, then she was so overbearing that you really want him to be faster than her. So if you can go first with him, you can stun someone before she puts everyone into stealth. And that's the only real reason I put him to be this fast. And then me being the extremely lazy person that I am, I just decided to leave the mods where they were. And so crit damage, remember guys, the faction in totality is going to have a lot of advantage, which means they're going to crit if at all possible. If someone isn't immune to crits, then they're going to crit. And so the crit damage triangle is almost universally going to be strong on this account, or on this faction. But and then otherwise, Supreme Leader Kylo stacks his damage really well. Like he builds his damage, and really a lot of times you can look at his team as a team that just it's there as a vehicle to get him to get his ultimate, to get him ramped up in his damage, and then eventually he cares nothing for his teammates. He's like, yeah, I'll give you some buffs, but only so that you guys can run interference for me and kind of get me ramped up. And so you know, he's going to ramp his damage up. He doesn't need to have a ton of damage at the very start. You really want to make sure he survives, though, against other Galactic Legends, against whatever nonsense you're going to be facing. He wants to be super healthy, folks. That's going to be the #1 consideration. And so after you do that, like some speed, absolutely really nice. Some damage, that's pretty neat as well. But you know, he's gonna ramp his damage. He's gonna consistently increase his damage. You don't necessarily need as much of that to start with. Now, Kylo Ren unmasked. He is so swole right now. Crew, so swole. He's just gonna want a lot of health, folks. I've seen people go full protection on him, and I don't think that that's a wrong answer either. I think that in the context of Supreme Leader Kylo, typically you want a little more health. And then if you look at his unique, folks, he's going to regenerate quite a bit based off of all the debuffs that he gets, and so more health is typically going to be better for him. If you want to go full protection, I'm not going to judge you out loud. So I mean, he's your primary tank here, folks. One of my favorite things about this faction are all of the stuns. It's so obnoxious. And Supreme Leader Kylo gives a 2-turn stun without the ability to resist it. Crew also, I mean, you can't resist it unless you're immune to stuns, but then it's 2 turns, man. 2 turns locks people down for it's just a really nice ability. Well, the one thing you don't have to worry about, folks, that none of what he does actually requires potency. And even if it did, you're in luck. On a basic, he's able to apply tenacity down, which means that then all of the debuffs that you're trying to apply are going to then be applied almost automatically without any kind of potency check. Otherwise, lots of armor, folks. Lots of, I mean, some speed, a decent amount of speed. And then, defense sets if you have them, health sets otherwise. And if you really want them to be faster, I guess you could give them a speed arrow, but make sure there's lots of health on it. And, yeah, he's really good with at least one of the, pretty much with any of the first order teams that you're going to find. All right, so Hux, he is a staple as well. Not literally, guys. He's not like an office appliance. I'm sorry, but he is a really important member of this faction. He's actually one of, he used to be, is he still? I think he's one of the few characters you can actually make gear 12 before he's 7-star. At least that's how he used to be. Now I'm spacing. It really, it's mostly inconsequential. But Hux stops your opponent from getting their bonus turn meter. And then the other nice thing about Hux is he's able to hand turns to Kylo, even if there's the same kind of interference, because he hands a bonus turn to Supreme Leader Kylo. He's not handing turn meter to him. And so, you want to be careful about handing turn meter anyways, because your whole team is, going to be weakened by gaining a bunch of turn meter. It reduces your max health and protection by a considerable margin, and so just handing him bonus turns is really nice. And then just one thing to keep in mind, folks, lots of tenacity here. People ask why we're doing the tenacity thing. So I mean, really, one of the biggest reasons is Jedi Master Luke can destroy this team really hard if he can just get his Flux, his AoE off with ability block. The thing is, if he does that, then you're kind of in trouble. But if Hux manages to resist it, so you want a ton of tenacity to stop it, then he's able to hand a turn to Kylo, and that also dispels Kylo, and then Kylo can do his AoE and get rid of the ability block on everyone else, and then it's like Flux never happened, and you can be about your business of dismantling those silly Jedi. And so the tenacity on him is fairly vital on him, and then the rest of his stuff, I mean, probably just want to make him survivable, frankly, guys. He's not adding a lot of damage unless there's some kind of weird cron or something. You do want him 1 speed slower than First Order Officer, typically, even on a Supreme Leader Kylo team, but then especially if you're going to be running him on a Phasma squad. Red Trooper is going to be assisting a lot, and he takes so many bonus turns that you don't really need that much speed. You can see I have a lot of speed on him for no good reason, honestly, folks. You don't need that much speed. You just need him to destroy with offense and crit damage, offense. I mean, just all the offense, folks. Crit damage and offense for days, because he assists every time one of your guys does something. It's pretty awesome. And when he takes a turn, he gets a ton of bonus turns. Well, he can take bonus turns if your people start dying. I guess that's the rub, isn't it? So, yeah, he does cool stuff. He can cleanse your team. He does neat stuff, guys. His AoE. Yeah, just offense. That's basically it. First Order Officer. First Order Officer wants to be 1 speed faster than Hux so that you can, mess with turn meter stuff. But yeah, First Order Officer, pretty good stuff. I do have potency on mine. I don't know, it's not that big of a deal, but keep in mind that with that second special, you can reduce people's turn meter if you're, the target's turn meter, if you pass that potency check. So that's kind of a nice little boost. In reality, like, the speed is going to be more important. Then, of course, he's a pilot for the tank on the fleet, which the fleet isn't the most important thing about this faction, but it's an okay fleet, and it's nice if you're First Order Officer has some relic levels and is survivable, so some 6E probably does you a little bit of credit. First Order Stormtrooper, really, you don't use him too often. Maybe in Phasma if you don't need crew, and sometimes on the First Order, or sometimes on the Supreme Leader Kylo team, in case you don't have crew available, or you're putting him on defense, then you want double tank. You don't need too much speed on him, mostly just a ton of protection, tons of protection, or armor, and then that's it, guys. Some speed. The Zeta on him is pretty good. He's able to assist. Sometimes he'll call Kylo to assist, and it's just the biggest FU thing ever. Let's see. So then we have Brian of Tarth, we have Captain Phasma, and the thing that you have to remember about Phasma, folks, and this is, kind of how the setup for her whole team works. Like, it's all turn meter based, turn meter loading. You're trying to gain as much turn meter as you can. And so the first part is she starts with plus 100 speed, which means if you can get her to somewhere around 300, that means she's going to be somewhere around 400 to start whatever attack she's doing. And then if she can go first, which obviously that's not fast enough to beat Galactic Legends, but if you're able to outspeed whatever other team you're facing, then she'll go first and she'll give the rest of her team 50% turn meter, which is enough to get the whole team to go next. And then after that, you're gonna have First Order Officer and Hux be able to hand turn meter where they need to hand it, call mass assists, do all sorts of awesome stuff, and you're going to, in theory, your opponent's team will never take a turn. It's very similar to an Imperial Troopers team. The mechanics are a little different, but in reality, you're just gaining so much turn meter off of your attacks and your out of turn attacks, all of that stuff, that you're able to just delete your opponent's team. After looking at a lot of people's different, the bigger guilds modding and stuff for this, for Phasma, most of them have her somewhere between 290 and 300 speed. So 285, probably right around where you want to have it, but I barely use her. I just don't. You have to have her Omicron, obviously, but she does do some cool stuff. The turn meter train stuff does some work. Again, especially it hunts most Star Killer squads, I will say that, folks. And then we have, so this is just me trying to get people prepped, because First Order Special Forces TIE Pilot is going to be used quite a bit in the upcoming Datacron set. Not really part of most teams. I would think that he's going to be part of the Supreme Leader Kylo squad. It looks like that's how it is, at least. And so, do what you want. The one thing I will point out here, folks, is that if you want to use the team consistently in Fleet Arena, if you want to be able to go faster than IG-88 when they're Relic 9, I believe you need First Order Special Forces TIE Pilot to be Relic 6 with all 6E mods, so that you can go for first, regardless of what ship you're trying to counter. And that's a pretty big deal, honestly, guys. Relic 6 on this pilot. Is it a pretty obscure counter? Yes. Is it a counter that I've had to break out every once in a while, even as of last season, I believe? I think yes. I've used it a few different times. Having a fast First Order Special Forces TIE Pilot, or at least TIE Fighter, is actually very nice. So Relic 6 is not wasted on this character, but if you do get Relic 6, make sure you have 6E mods as well. And then the potency thing, one thing to keep in mind as well, folks. So first, two interesting things. First off, First Order Special Forces TIE Pilot does physical damage on basic and does special damage on both of his specials, which is just wild. And all of their attacks, I believe, do defense down, which is a really nice debuff, especially because you're already auto-critting with all the advantage. So anyways, folks, that's how you mod them. And that's it. That's where we're going to leave it for today. Yeah. Hopefully this is helpful. Thank you all so much for watching. And remember that in all things, Zareth prevails. I hope. Take care, folks.